Arjun, has Iran completely exposed all its cards now? All its non-state actors are active, and Israel and the US are fighting a 360-degree war.
Well, what is pretty clear is that Israel and the United States are pretty distracted. Rather, the United States is pretty distracted with the war in Ukraine, with what's going on in Israel, China, which they've just had an agreement with. If you can bring in fiction into this, if you read Tom Clancy books, this is pretty much a playbook from there, where you've got one large country which sends out its proxies to fight for it. And you know what I'm referring to. And here it seems to be repeating this some kind of thing. One thing I'll bring in is the choke points of this region, which of course you're familiar with, the Bab el-Mandeb Straits, which you will talk about, and the Straits of Hormuz are the critical choke points. And this is where Iranian proxies are operating. And if you take, when you mentioned the non-state actor, here you've got an oddity, where you've got the third category, which is a non-state actor which has got a state.
Which has a state,
more or less, which is what Houthi is. And their
in fact, let's look at this map. You're just talking about it, Arjun. You have the Arabian Peninsula there. You have the Bab el-Mandeb there, which is one of the most important choke points west of the Malacca Straits. And you have the Persian Gulf there, of course, where more than 80% of the world's oil flows. So you have Iran sitting there at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. You have Iranian-backed Houthis there at the Bab el-Mandeb, which is another important thing for us, especially because of all our European trade flows there. And of course, you have Hezbollah there in Lebanon with access to the Mediterranean Sea.
And not just that, but with the Hezbollah, literally southern Lebanon, which Hezbollah controls, how far is that from Haifa port itself? Hardly, 100 kilometers at best. So there are the three choke points, and not very far from Egypt either, the Suez Canal. So this is where they are, and they are testing the waters right now to see where they will be pushed back, and this is a distraction, a massive distraction. Now, also when you spoke about when you spoke about this, when you showed your story about the capture, the hijacking of the ship. Of course, the whole thing was that it's partially owned by an Israeli. There are no Israelis on board this ship at all. But also, let's also consider, as you said, non-state actor. But remember, these are the guys who fired a rocket, not just drones on
ballistic missile
Saudi
all
Arabia,
the way
to
Israel.
And if it was not intercepted by the American fleet, God knows where it would have reached.
Absolutely.
So this is not. I wouldn't just brush them off as saying non-state actor or somebody who's got, let's say, rubber bands or something like that. This is serious equipment which they're operating.
Non-state actors with
state-like
equipment and capabilities.
Well, Pakistan is a known example of that, where the Lashkar gets all the assistance from the Pakistan armed forces. So it's not a state actor which gets a non-state actor which gets its support from a state.
Aditya, you believe that non-state actors in Pakistan could borrow from this playbook and start demanding these kind of capabilities? We've already seen a drone attack in Jammu, the air base, traced down to the Lashkar-e-Taiba.
Increasingly, we've seen strategy of these terror groups changing. In fact, both the ISI and these terror groups taking away things from the playbook of these rebels or Houthis, Hezbollah and others. As you rightly pointed out, one of the drone attacks, in fact twice, at the Jammu airport led to a frenzy. And there was the NIA, there was in fact a lot of intelligence agencies that had gone down, because it was later discovered that perhaps there were some areas where the drone was operated from beyond the border in Pakistan, and in other areas there were anti-state elements and terrorists
collaborators on our side.
So we'll have to obviously be cautious of such trends, really picking up. Not just that, even the October 7 attack, for instance, the level of such attack, in fact, there are several radicalized youth, not just in Kashmir but in Pakistan as well, who could be used for a large-scale attack. Whether or not it will be successful, of course, our counter-terror grid on the LOC is pretty strong. But still, such an eventuality can happen at any moment. But one thing that we've also realized after Pulwama, after Balakot, is that Pakistan also is thinking twice before acting in any such manner, because there are global reactions and consequences for Pakistan, not just political but in economic in nature. The FATF pressure, the UN embarrassment, and the diplomatic pressure globally has led to an economic crisis in Pakistan as well. So I wouldn't actually say that these guys will operate the same way. But of course, they will take lessons and some of the technology that is used by Iran.
News 9 Plus. Download now.